Hey guys, Kim here, and you are tuned back into Kim E, the Diabetes MP. So we're just gonna keep this going. You'll probably notice I still have on the same outfit that I had on yesterday's live. It's because I'm currently filming this together, and the reason being, the second one I'm filming this on the same day that I did number 5, and the reason being is because I have a pretty busy week, and so I want to be consistent. So I want to get this out to you. So this one is pre-recorded, okay? And so if you are new here, let me just give you a little recap. My name is Kimberly Ellis. I am also known in these digital streets as Kim E, the Diabetes MP. On my YouTube channel, I put out a lot of information for healthcare professionals, all healthcare professionals, over diabetes education and diabetes management. I also have some resources for patients as well. It's called the Patient Corner. I made a whole playlist over that. But what I have been doing here and what I am challenging myself to do for the month of January is I'm giving my own commentary over the newly released 2023 ADA Standards of Care. They come out every year in December for the upcoming year. And everybody always loves to read them. If you're in the industry, you read them through and and people pull what is, relevant for their practice. But for me, I always like to read through them, even if it's not an area that I work in or a setting that I work in, just so I can know, because I serve as a resource at my job, for colleagues. And so it's just good to know this stuff. And so I've been doing this. Last year, I attempted to do all of them. I did not complete them all, but I am challenging myself to do that this year. Typically, I only put out one video a week, but to be able to get through all of these, I do need to get out 4 a week. So I'm putting them out Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We've already gone through 1 through 5. And today we're going to talk about glycemic targets. Now, before we get into glycemic targets, let me just say something. If you have not seen the previous 5, you don't have to go in order. I would like for you to follow along with us, because I do feel like they put it in an order that's very succinct and it makes sense. So, but I understand everybody got things they got to do, but I am going to include the link in the description box in the comments if you want to go back and rewatch them and just kind of binge watch. So let's get into it. This one, number 6, is not as thick as number 5 was, okay? So hopefully I can get this in under, I got the last one in under 45 minutes, y'all. I really want to be under 30, but I'm doing the best I can, okay? So this one is called Glycemic Targets, and this one's very interesting, okay? And it's going to lead us into number 7, the 7th standard, which is diabetes technology, very well. I think they did that very well. But out the gate, it says glycemic control is assessed by the A1C measurement, continuous glucose monitoring using time and range, and or glucose management indicators, and the glucose monitoring. So that's your BGM. So that's like when people prick their fingers, okay? So for those who don't know, just to give y'all, just so we're all on the same playing field, continuous glucose monitoring is a thing. It is a big thing. It's on the rise. The thing about CGM is that it's really easy to get it for those who have, it's like insulin pumps. It's not an insulin pump, but in this, what I'm about to say, it's in line. When it comes to insulin pumps and CGMs, they're very easy to get for type 1s. For those who have type 2, it can be a process. ADA does recognize that, especially for CGM, because everybody doesn't need all type 2s. You're not going to find too many type 2s that can benefit from an insulin pump, possibly, but it's more needed in type 1 population. But everybody could utilize a CGM. I think if you're I ain't gonna say everybody. I'm gonna say there is a lot more type 2s that can benefit from a CGM. The problem is access and coverage. Okay, and so they do talk about that, and they do make note of that throughout the whole standards. But CGM is good. Okay, it's good. I'm not going to get into the nooks and crannies. I've made some some videos over the different technology that's out there. I even had an endocrinologist to come on and kind of answer some of the questions that people submitted in to me. So I'm not going to get into that, but CGMs are really good. You know what I'm saying? Paired with the BGM, the blood glucose monitoring, it really gives us the data that we need to really figure out what's going on when you have the variability in your blood sugars. So that is that. And so it goes into talking about the A1C limitations, which I've touched on, that we know that this is an indirect measure. So it does come with limitations. Okay. It's not a direct measure, it's an indirect measure. Okay. And it says here A1C does not provide a measure of glycemic variability or hypoglycemia. So that's what it doesn't tell us. Okay. It doesn't say the swings. It doesn't give account, it doesn't give an account of the hypoglycemia. It's just the percentage, the indirect measure. Okay. For patients prone to glycemic variability, especially people with type 1 or type 2 diabetes with severe insulin deficiency, glycemic control is best evaluated by the combination of the BGM and the CGM and the A1C. Okay. That's very interesting, because that's not what's happening. Okay. I know that ain't what's happening out there among us. Okay. But that's what it says. Okay. Talks about the correlation between the BGM and the A1C, BGM being blood glucose monitoring. I made a whole video over this. I did a training at my last employer because we did a lot of field labs. We did a lot of POCs, A1Cs, and people were talking about how they were getting bad batches of the little A1C glucometers. And so when that happened, I put together a training right quick that if you are suspicious that what is clinically presenting in front of you, you're looking at their blood glucose log, but yet your A1C is saying they are 6.2. This is how you can figure out. This is how you can figure it out. And it talks a little bit about this. It gives you a chart right here. And again, on my channel, because at first it was just the individual trainer. I think I made that open. It was unlisted, but I think it is public now. If it's not, let me know. Drop down in the comments, and I can make it public. It was a very quick trick, and I used a chart, and there you go. So talked about that. The thing that is interesting, it goes into talking about the glucose assessment of the CGM. So I will tell you this. I am not going to go in detail with this. And here's the reason why. A couple of reasons why. Because I typically deal with the Medicare, Medicaid population, and the majority of them are diagnosed with type 2. That's one. But also, it would behoove you not to kind of look over this yourself, because it's a lot. It can be a little bit a lot. And if this is your first time looking at this, it can be confusing. And I don't have the time to go through it. But going back to my typical demographic, I am familiar and I am competent in reading the AGP report, but I don't see these every day. Okay. I actually don't see them at all. Actually, I had to go out on my own to learn this stuff, but I don't really see this in practice because this is not typically my demographic. I probably have seen maybe one in practice, because typically my demographic is type 2 and they don't have CGMs. Not to say that they don't need them, but I don't find too many of my patients that have CGMs. And those who do have the CGMs, they don't always have their reports. So in my line of work, I don't always see this. And this information is not always privy to me. But I did do myself a service by taking classes. And when I go to conferences, I do take the time to learn this, because again, I do know that I am a resource. I'm on the NP education team at my current job. I've always been like a resource nurse. So I do need to be familiar and I need to be competent in it. Okay. So I'm not going to go through it. I understand it. I understand what it is. I know what the different ranges are. but it goes through it pretty well for you here. And I would also suggest that you take any courses. I know the ADA as well as ADCES, they give classes, affordable classes. For me, some of them are free because I'm a member, but for the general public, they're affordable. If you feel like you need to learn this, there are resources out here about it, about all this stuff. Lots of resources out here. And so this right here, that chart here gives you the metrics where you, what's what, so, typically overall, give you an overview. The CGM is typically more for recommended 14 days. It's not like your insulin pump where you're going to keep it on. It's just giving us the 2-week snapshot. And there's different points on the report that you need to key into. Now, let me show you what like a mock report may look like. I hope you guys could see this. So a mock report, you may not be able to check it all out, but this is kind of like a printout that you would get. And it's a lot. Like I said, if you don't know what you're looking at, it's just a lot of graphs. But I do want to, I wanted to let you all know that it is definitely something that is on the rise. It's not even on the rise. It's rapidly, like, we trying to get everybody a CGM because it works. And the reason why it works is because it gives you a good idea of the variability. Whereas with the BGM gives you that snapshot, the CGM, you can look at trends. It gives you a lot of data. And as a healthcare professional, you'll be able to look at like the swings and the highs and lows. And because it's over like so many days and you see like the time when people are going high and when they're going low, like I'm looking at this one here, this person does not have lows, but they have quite a bit of highs. And so then you can key in and you can ask yourself, well, what's going on around 9 o'clock in the morning? Oh, you eating your breakfast. What are you eating? Oh, okay. Well, okay. And then you can investigate what's going on and think maybe we should get this person back into an RDN. Maybe we need to revisit some nutritional therapy. But it's a really good tool. Something that they do mention is that, I'm just putting this in my own words, is that you can get all the data in the world and all the information in the world, but if you don't know what to do with it. And so this is what their guidance is in this document is that, overall I'm trying to find where it said, because I highlighted it somewhere. I can't find where I highlighted it, but basically it's like they're trying to give you some guidelines in like some benchmarks when a person is this, if this clinical picture says this is something you can do. And so I think, let me see if I can find it, because I really liked how they worded it. The goals of therapy is not the goals of therapy next to each metric as values to guide the changes in your therapy. So, and overall, regardless of the population being served, it is critical for the glycemic targets to, again, be overall person-centered. So, for example, in a very young child, safety and simplicity may outweigh the need for glycemic stability in the short run. So simplification may decrease parental anxiety and build trust and confidence, which could then support future strengthening of glycemic targets and self-efficacy. So I read that that is not just in regard to CGM, it's just talking about our glycemic goals. That like it has to be patient and person-centered, for the simple fact that, like, you may have to simplify something and get people on board and get people comfortable first, and then you can start strengthening up the targets. So that was it. That goes into glycemic goals. Like I said, that's not just the CGM. That wasn't a good transition, so sorry. We're talking about glycemic goals now. But it also says here, the healthcare professional needs to work with an individual and should consider adjusting targets for simplifying the treatment plan if this change is needed to improve safety and medication taking behaviors. And so it's not so really leaning into, I mean, y'all, I guess y'all can see this theme here. It's like you got to work with the patient. You got to keep them at the center of the care. You got to assess how you doing, what's going on. Is this too hard for you? Is it too simple? Do you feel like you could take on a little bit more? What do we need to do? You know, you got to have these questions with people. And so let's see here. It does talk about our A1C goal being an A1C goal for many non-pregnant adults of less than 7 without significant hypoglycemia is appropriate. And so it says that because it has been shown to decrease after many studies. It has been shown to decrease the microvascular complications, not only just in type 1, but also in type 2 diabetes as well. This is an interesting statement that I want to bring up. It says that hyperglycemia defines diabetes, and glycemic control is fundamental to diabetes management. I don't think a lot of people know that. I don't think a lot of people know that that's what defines diabetes. It's the hyperglycemia. I think if you're thinking like, well, of course, but we don't practice like that. We don't really practice like that because I see too many people allowing their patients to be in that hyperglycemia state. That's what clinical inertia is. And I don't know if it talks about this in this standard, but the therapeutic inertia, which is basically like you're not being progressive, you're not doing anything. There's no forward movement in your plan or in outcomes. So nothing's happening. The patient's targets are not being reached. You're not achieving health outcomes, and you're not moving the treatment to get those outcomes. That's what therapeutic inertia is. That's the Kim definition, the chemist, okay? So they talked about that. They do give you some guidance. I love this chart here. They've had this chart for a few years now, probably longer than that. But ever since I've been reading the standards, they have had it. So the approach to individualization of glycemic targets. I actually think that I want to do a video over that, because I have found that a lot of people have issues. They have issues. I'm making a note of it. They have issues with individualizing care, just not even in diabetes in general. I find that. And there's nothing wrong. Like, hey, we all got along. It's a muscle that you have to get comfortable with. So I do want to do that. And I'm gonna base it off of this chart, but it's a great chart. And it talks about like your more stringent goals and your less stringent goals. It talks about what is modifiable, what is not modifiable, you know, your severity versus if there's an absence of, you know, the issue. And so I think it's a very great chart. So I think I'm gonna do a video over that. Okay. Stand by. Talks about the A1C in relation to cardiovascular disease. It is CVD, cardiovascular disease, is the more common cause of death than microvascular complications in populations with diabetes. To prevent both the micro and the macro complications, there is a major call to overcome, hey, I talked about it, therapeutic inertia, and treat to target for an individual patient. That's a word right there. I can make a video off of that. You know what? Therapeutic inertia. We're going to talk about it. Because we got a lot of patients walking around here. They ain't meet nobody target. Do your patient even have a target? We got to talk about it, y'all. There's no shame in your game. That's what we're doing here. That's why we're having these conversations. So it talks about the CVD. The big takeaway here, it talks about like really leaning into your GLP-1s, your SGLT2Is, and help me, Lord, SGLT2 inhibitors, because they have great cardiovascular benefits. even some renal, some kidney benefit as well. It goes into setting and modifying your A1C goals, and it does make the statement that the ADA proposes general targets appropriate for many people, but emphasizes the importance of individualization based on key patient characteristics. And that there's a number of factors that affect how you would set the goal. So yes, they're telling us here in black and white, yes, we don't put out an overall goal, but we're telling y'all to individualize this, y'all. Like, yes, the A1C should be less than 7 for most people, but some people it may not. And they're giving us a lot of tools of how to go about to do that. I love that. I love that. Goes into hypoglycemia. And we'll close out with hypoglycemia. So I would tell every provider, professional, if you deal with any patient that has diabetes and is identified as a person who is at risk for having hypoglycemia, you must know, you need to know about hypoglycemia. Not only you also educate your patients. You need to also educate your patients over their risk, how to identify its symptoms, and then what to do. What to do. Go back to self-care behaviors, modifying, reducing risk, problem solving, that is, taking medications, when to take it, when not to take it, monitoring, like what is your blood sugar? These are all self-care behaviors. This all comes in line when it comes to hypoglycemia. And so it goes through this. It's a very good little section. It tells you what the symptoms are. I don't think a lot of people know that there's three levels to hypoglycemia. Level 1 is a glucose that is less than 70, but more than 54. Level 2 is a blood glucose that is less than 54. Level 3 is a severe event characterized by altered mental and or physical status requiring assistance for treatment of hypoglycemia. If you notice, there is no number here because somebody could have an altered mental state at 60, could have it at 70, could have it at 40. Everybody's different. You know what I'm saying? So it's anytime there's an altered mental state. And it says here that if a person, hypoglycemia may be inconvenient or frightening to people with diabetes, but any level of level 3, which is that mental altered state, hypoglycemia is, wait a minute, I'm reading, I thought I was reading something else. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second, y'all. I thought it's something a point that I wanted to, I wanted to bring up. Sorry about that. But the point, I can't find where I highlighted it, but it's saying that if someone has multiple occurrences of hypoglycemia that we can't explain, like it's not because like we know like, well, they're having hypoglycemia because they injected themselves and they didn't eat. Well, we can fix that. But like if it's an unexplained multiple recurring times of hypoglycemia, or if there's just one occurrence of that level 3 where there's an altered mental state, then you do need to be investigating and you do need to change. You need to modify your treatment plan. I thought that's what I was reading, but it was not. Okay. Let's see. It does say that we need to treat our patients. We need to educate them and counsel them about fast-acting carbohydrates to treat it. Yes, it should be pure glucose, but it also states that it can be anything that has glucose in it that will raise the blood sugar. But it does say pure glucose is the preferred treatment. Once that blood sugar gets back to normal and it starts to rise back up, that person needs to eat a full meal. You just don't need to be like, okay, they back to normal, we can go on back out. Like, nope, you need to sit down, have you meal. It says once the glucose returns to normal, the individual should be counseled to eat a meal or snack to prevent recurrent hypoglycemia. It does go into glucagon, and who that is for. Basically, like, you don't have to be everybody. When you have a glucagon emergency kit, anybody that is around that person on a regular basis, whether it be coworkers, family, a teacher, like if it's a child in school, everybody needs to be educated and aware and familiar with how to use it. Because if you're using a glucagon kit, then that means that that person's at a level 3. They're a level 3 hypoglycemia, and they, because otherwise, if not, then they can just eat something. But at that point, at level 3, they're not able to eat, and glucagon is going to treat that hypoglycemia. So people around them need to know how to use it, how to administer it, and what to do. What's the aftercare going to look like? And it says that the person doesn't need to be a healthcare professional for that either. So teachers, like if you have patients, young children, the teachers need to know, the counselors, anybody that's going to come in contact with this child, the people need to know, okay, how to administer it. One thing that I didn't say, and then we're going to close out here. It does give you the basic targets, because I do have many people that ask, many patients that will say, where do I need to keep my blood sugar? So in this chart here, that chart there, it says the summary of glycemic recommendations for many non-pregnant adults with diabetes, okay? Because they have their own set of targets. We'll talk about that when we get to that standard. 1C, less than 7, okay? The preprandial capillary plasma glucose. So this is before they eat and they prick their blood sugar and their finger. It should be 80 to 130. That's not changed. That hasn't changed in a while. At one point, I think it was like 70 to 180. But they increased it because of people's it talks about that in the hypoglycemia section years ago. I think it was like maybe 2014 or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, no, 2015. It says in 2015, the ADA changed its preprandial glycemic target from 70 to 130 to 80 to 130. This change reflects the results of the AD-AG study, which demonstrated that a higher glycemic target corresponded to A1C goals. So they changed it. So it's been that way for 8 years now. And so that's your target, 80 to 130. And then the peak postprandial capillary plasma glucose is less than 180. So when we're talking about postprandial, more or less what they're talking about is I'm trying to find it exactly. Postprandial glucose measurements should be made 1 to 2 hours after the beginning of the meal. Generally, people with diabetes. So when we're talking postprandial, we're not talking right after they eat, taking it like right after, 1 to 2 hours after. So I always say 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, take your blood sugar 2 hours. What is it 2 hours after? And you do need to tell your patients that. When I talk about how your blood sugar runs after, it's 2 hours after. So 1 to 2, but I like to say 2. So anyways, I think that is it. I think I hit it all. And we did that one under 30. And so anyways, guys, I hope you guys are enjoying this. Please drop down in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Is this helpful for you? Is there something that you want me to make a future video off of? I've already wrote a couple of videos already that I'm like, I'm going to do it. But if y'all have any video suggestions, drop down in the comments and let me know. And I will put it in the queue. You have been sitting here with Kim E, the Diabetes MP. Tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, Thursday, same time, same place. Come back and meet me and we'll go over number 7, which is diabetes technology. I'm excited about that one. And so anyways, guys, thank y'all for tuning in, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye.